talk today about milking stand construction. So obviously you can buy milk stands online, like that's the easy way to do it, but it's a really expensive way to do it. These things usually don't go for that cheap. So we're just going to go over the basic design features and also some unusual choices on ours and why we did it this way. Alright, so basic design. Obviously, legs. This one uses 2x4s. I do actually prefer, if you look over here at this one, 4x4s are obviously going to be a little sturdier, but these 2x4s have been holding up fine. They still work. Alright, so legs, a basic frame, and then just a sheet of plywood across to form your standing surface. Probably the very most important piece is this setup right here, because this is what's going to hold the goat's head. So, as you can see, this is 4 2x4s. 3 of them are static, so 2 on the outside. And then of these two, these two inner pieces are what actually hold the goat's head in place. One of them is fixed and the other one moves. Okay? And that's just, you can do just a nail or screw or whatever at the bottom here, just a single one that holds the bottom in place but lets it swivel back and forth. Alright? And then this piece up here just kind of holds everything together and acts as a guide for the one swivel piece. Alright, and then this is just really simple. It's just a block of wood that fits in here. And what this does is once it's in place, it keeps this from swiveling anymore. So it locks it in. And that way, once the goat's head is in here, you lock this in and it just traps them. So this space right here between these beams, once this is locked in, it should be wide enough that the goat's neck will comfortably fit in there. Obviously you don't want to choke your goat out. I mean, I guess I shouldn't really need to say that, but I'm saying it anyway. But what you don't want is for them to be able to pull their head back out from here. And of course, if you have a lot of different sized goats, well, that could be a problem too, of like some have bigger heads and necks than others. Usually ones that have horns, because a lot of their horns come out just a little bit wider than their head, that'll help lock them in. But if you have goats that are disbudded or ones that just have really narrow horns, then you're really going to have to make sure that the space is thinner than their head. So over here, just using a piece of wire, we're hanging a bucket here. We put the food in here. That's what entices the goats in, because if you don't give the goats food, they don't want to give you boob action on the milking stand. Now, this bar here, right at the bucket's height, this is something I added in. So the reason I put this in is because before, when this was just one long slit, the goats were able to move their heads up and down the entire length of this. They couldn't get their heads back out, but they could move them up and down. Well, what would happen is whenever you had a goat with an attitude, they would stick their head under here and they would knock the bucket, spill all their food over. Sometimes, like, disconnect the bucket from the wire entirely. Sometimes they broke the bucket. So putting this bar here just keeps them from doing that. Keeps their head above the bucket. Haven't had a problem with them not being able to feed out of here. I mean, you can see it's not a huge bucket. So they're still able to put their heads in. They're still able to feed. They just can't get underneath the bucket to knock it around anymore. These beams here were another thing that we added on later. That's because our first goats, they were already broken into the stand. They were pretty cooperative. As we started putting first-time milkers up here, especially our big one, Nabisco, she's an Alpine, whereas most of ours are Nigerian dwarfs. New mothers that aren't used to the stand, they can be difficult, so they were rocking back and forth. They were trying to pull their head out, and so they were shaking this entire piece, and I was worried that they were just going to break this entire section off. So putting these two beams here added a great deal of reinforcement. Triangles are strong shapes, and so we haven't had that as a problem anymore. Now, if you do some reinforcement like this, you just want to make sure you're not blocking your access to their udders, for obvious reasons, but it's something that you might not think of as you're initially putting these on. So it helps, just whenever you're doing work on the stand, it helps to have like a goat up here as your model to work off of, so you can get a sense of space and proportions. And then after doing this, then we added this little bar here. That's because we had one goat in particular that would just sit down right on her udders every time she got up here. Obviously that makes it very difficult to milk her. So the way we position this, her legs sit back, her front legs are up here, of course, her hind legs sit just behind the bar. And then the udders, you can either move them to the front or move them to the back. But this way she can't sit down on her udders because the bar blocks her. So if she does sit, she's just sitting on the bar. I just push her udders forward. I still have access to them over here. It's a little awkward with this in the way, but I mean, it is what it is. There's no perfect way to do this. But this way we've still been able to get at the udders and still milk her even when she's being difficult. One more thing, because I apologize, I started talking about this earlier, and goats that have different head sizes. If you make this adjustable where you have either multiple blocks, or in this case what I do is I swivel the block around. See, it's meant to go in this way where this triangle piece matches right up with this. But if you turn it the other way around, it still fits. This is wider and it pushes this piece in further. So what it does is it just gives us a little bit of adjustment for different size goats. So if it's a larger goat, I can have it this way. But if there's a smaller goat that can still pull her head out, I can just set it up this way. And instead of doing that, you could have just multiple pieces like this of different sizes, or you could just have like some peg holes in here at different points, and you just, slap a bolt in or something. There's different ways to go about it, but I highly recommend that you have some way to be able to adjust the opening here. Straps. This was for one goat in particular when she was new to the stand. We don't have to do it anymore, but when we first got her up here, she liked to kick a lot. So we just put some straps here that we could tie around her legs. And we just, we had to do it a few times until she got the hang of it. Usually after, you do this for a little bit with the new goat, they're going to get more comfortable with it. They realize they're getting food, they're not getting hurt. And then usually they're just a lot calmer and easier to work with. But for like that first little bit, these straps helped a lot in not having this goat trying to kick all the time while I'm right here working and trying to milk her. And nothing special about that. These were just really cheap belts from Goodwill. Alright, so thank you for watching our channel. Please like and subscribe. And hit the doorbell thing so it'll ring you for notifications. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. That's a thing, right? That's the okay, cool. Do that.